Happy Monday morning, everyone, and happy start to an amazing week. And welcome to Connections Online Studio and to our live chat. I'm Nat, Connections Director of Communications and Outreach. And this morning, I'm thrilled to welcome Tony Alfonso, the Public Awareness Coordinator at AMI-Quebec. So welcome, Tony. This is really great.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah.
So I thought this morning we would chat about AMI-Quebec, of course, which is a nonprofit community organization, and the different resources that are available for families and individuals with mental illness or mental health challenge. But I thought we could start first with you, Tony. We could talk about your role at AMI-Quebec and some of the work that you've done with youth.
Okay, perfect. So I am the outreach coordinator at AMI-Quebec. So my role is to just basically do and talk to people and get people talking about mental illness and mental health and caregivers. That is my primary role. And that takes all kinds of roles. Like I do talks like this, I give workshops, I give presentations, I have a set of volunteers who give presentations with lived experience. And a lot of the times, most of the time, in fact, our presentations that I coordinate are given to high school aged youth. That is just one of the big areas that we've been focusing on since before I started working here. And so when I took over the portfolio, that was my primary role. I also, I talk with radio stations and like TV or whatever, a little bit of everything. We're also trying to break into into corporate presentations as well, to talk with managers and CEOs and people about, the impact that caregiving has on their staff. And so one of the big things that we are pushing now is young carers at AMI-Quebec. And we have been pushing it for a long time. Ella, the executive director, has been involved with a lot of legislation about young carers in the past and has been like a go-to for people and trying to frame that in the government side of things. And so when I work with youth, I work with high school kids, and we talk about mental health, and we talk about young carers, and we talk about all these different things that have to do with life and what we do at AMI-Quebec. Yeah.
It's funny, because I never think of youth as being young carers, right? We always imagine, I guess, which is really wrong, but we always imagine that it's adults or people with children or looking after their loved one, their spouse, but we just never think that young carers or youth would be in that role.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because one of the ways that I start talking about young carers when I'm actually talking with youth is I ask them a series of questions. And I'm like, okay, how many of you have a family member that you help out every once in a while? How many of you do offer translation for your parents every once in a while? How many of you have had to accompany your parents to a doctor and like speak on their behalf? How many of you have a younger or older sibling that you have to take care of while your parents are working? How many of you? And I just like keep going through all these roles that are considered caring positions, and all these kids raise their hands. They're like, yep, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. And then I say, now how many of you consider yourself a young carer? Nobody. None of them consider themselves to be young carers. And that's the difficult part around it, right? Is acknowledging their role as taking on these responsibilities, because they don't see it that way. They just see it as, that's just what I have to do. I have to take care of my family. I have to be there. This is my job, So yeah, it's tricky. It's hard to acknowledge that that's your role. And it's the same thing for other carers as well as like caregivers. Oftentimes people don't realize they're in that position.
Yeah.
And
because we do
affect them.
And we do outreach to caregivers, like the adult caregivers and whatnot. They just don't see themselves as caregivers. So I can imagine that the youth would be in that position as well. So they must be quite surprised when you're telling them that they are actually caregivers.
It's hard, right? Because I have never seen anyone have that aha moment, like, oh wow, what, really? Yeah. But I definitely see a lot of them like shaking their heads like, oh, okay, I see what you're talking about. Like it's not really like a huge thing, because it doesn't change their life to label what they are. when it's just what they do every day, right? So
I guess the important thing, and I'm just making sure, yeah, everything's good. The important thing is that for them to realize they're caregivers so that they can then find the support and the help that they need, right? So that they realize that it's okay for me to get help, which is basically what
yeah,
is what you do, right? At
yeah,
AMI-Quebec is help
yeah.
them.
Oftentimes too is that you don't realize you're a caregiver. You don't realize the impact it might have on you, right? You're like, there's there are very normal and natural feelings to have for being a caregiver. Resentment, anger, like these are all very normal things to feel, and knowing how to deal with them, how to cope with them, and how to process them in healthy ways is really sometimes difficult for people, and that can push families apart when you have someone who's in a caregiver role, doesn't realize the impact it has on them, and then they distance themselves from their families because of that role that they had, whether they did it willingly or not. So
So even more important then for youth to get the
yeah,
help that they need, right? Because they're dealing with so many
yeah,
emotions, right? They're starting off life, they're
yeah,
looking to their future, but they're still kind of feeling that guilt as well, right?
yeah,
So yeah, it
yeah,
must be a lot to kind of deal with. So
yeah,
I'm just going to show this quick infographic because you, AMI-Quebec, had put this together, and
yeah,
I find it really interesting. So I'm just going to pop it in, and we're just going to quickly and come back
yeah,
up. There we go. I'm just waiting for Tony to come back
yeah.
up. It
There
takes
you
a
go.
few seconds. So, talking about young carers, I was quite surprised when I saw the stats on this because it's actually 1.25 million youth aged 15 to 24 who are providing unpaid care. And I'm guessing this is 1.25 in Canada.
Yeah, I believe these are all Canadian statistics. Oh no, sorry, this is Quebec.
This is just Quebec. So 1.5 million
Yeah,
youth.
yeah, this is what it. Oh no, sorry, that says in Canada specifically. I'm looking at the.
In Canada? Yes, it
Yeah,
does. You spotted that
yeah.
quickly. Yeah, 1.25. That's huge, though, right?
It's a
That's huge.
significant number. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not insignificant, and and those are. It's interesting because it's not. There's no one specific profile for who a young caregiver is going to be. I mentioned earlier it can be anybody.
Mhm.
Oftentimes you'll have a lot of immigrant and refugee youth who all end up acting as caregivers for their parents learning the new system because children tend to learn languages faster than adults. And so if you have someone who's coming from a place where English or French isn't their primary language, which happens, and then they come into Canada and then they have to speak on behalf of their parents essentially, or they have to offer translation services because the hospital doesn't have a translation service, the doctor doesn't have a translation service. It also affects the care of the parents as well, right? Or the adults in that situation because they're ashamed to say certain things in front of their kid. There's it can end up being more a bigger issue than you really think of it just at the topical level.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I hadn't actually even thought of that. The fact that they'd have to, I mean, translate, of course, they'd have to, but the thought that it's true, they would have to translate those more difficult,
Yeah, and I
illnesses
mean,
and whatnot. And
how many 12-year-olds know the words medical terminology in both languages, right?
yeah,
It's tricky.
for sure. Yeah. And when I was looking at that number, 1.25 million, I'm guessing that's just the youth who know that they're caregivers, right?
Yeah, I think these are
Doesn't
people who are
include
identifying in that role, right? Yeah,
That's right. So it doesn't include all of those youth who aren't identifying.
yeah.
I mean, in all the talks that you've given, have any of the youth known beforehand that they were
I
caregivers?
think it's interesting. It really just depends on who I'm talking to. Sometimes, well, that's not true actually, because I wanted to say that oftentimes you'll see certain kids that are like, yeah, that's I'm a caregiver. This is what I do. But other times they'll say I do all these things, but I'm not a caregiver. That's what I have to do.
Mhm.
I'm taking care of my family. This is just what I do.
Yeah. And now I know that you used to work with youth, but you
Yeah,
still do because you still do
yeah,
presentations and whatnot. And I
yeah.
really wanted to know, I'm sure that you really love working with youth.
I do a lot.
And I was just curious if you could tell us, like, what do you find most inspiring about them, about youth, and about these young carers?
Yeah. There's like a cliche that the kids are all right, and that's like a saying that is said I've heard. I don't know if other people have heard it or not, but it's definitely something I stand behind 100%. Like the kids are all right. Like the youth today are, especially when we talk about just mental health in general, are leaps and bounds ahead of where my generation was, where the next generation above was. Like it's just like they're talking about stuff at a much younger age, and not in a way of like, oh, I need attention, or oh, I need to like stigmatize people. Just talking. They're just talking about feelings, about emotions, and things that are like, you know, you definitely see other adults who are like, oh, these kids are just like crybabies. And it's like, no, they're actually talking about things instead of holding them back, instead
Mhm.
of like letting it fester forever. And like, it's positive thing. It's not a negative thing. Like, I'd much
Definitely.
rather see kids talking about these things and like, you know, supporting their friends. It's like, it's a good thing. I don't, it's very rare that I'm like disappointed or unimpressed with the things that youth are getting into these days. Like, and I think it's also about perspective as well, right? Like, I got into trouble as a kid. I did all these dumb things. I did all these things. And then I look at the kids that are doing today, and they're still doing all these dumb things. Everyone's like, oh, the kids aren't going out and they're not playing in the streets. And it's like, they are. It's just a different type of interaction. You know, the world they live in is very different than the world I grew up in. You know, I grew up on the cusp of like the internet and no internet, right? So when I was in middle school and high school, we were on dial-up on computers and AOL chat rooms and ICQ and all these things, talking with people in. I had a very close friend who lived in New Jersey that I never met, you know, when I was in middle school. But I still was going outside and like skateboarding every day and getting into trouble and like talking with my friends and like riding my bicycle through the woods and like doing all these other things that kids are doing. And you know, and I look at my son is 15 and he's still doing all these things. He's like talking with friends on the internet. That's like the reality of the world that we live in now. We can't take that away. We can't say no to that. But then he's also, you know, he's going downtown. He's hanging out downtown with kids and they're like getting into trouble in the malls or getting into trouble in the stores or just like walking around doing teenager things. And I'm
Mhm.
glad for that. Like, I think that oftentimes people say, "Oh, the kids aren't, they're not doing these things," and it's like, well, are you really talking to the kids? Because they're still doing all those things that they're just not telling you about
They know better.
it. They know better, right? They're smarter now.
They're a step ahead of us. That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, and it is interesting that you say that the idea that that they talk about their feelings, they're really out there and they express themselves, and it really is great because yeah, same with me. When I was young, you didn't talk about your feelings. It was totally taboo, right? You didn't talk about your difficulties or even in mental illness in general. So it's really great that they are talking about it so that when they do become adults, right, they're
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, obviously they'll still be talking about it, but they're kind of ready to take on the world. And that's also because I do work with youth as well. And I find that's a lot of it is that they're just really ready to take on the next,
Yeah.
But you don't just work with youth. So you
No,
also work with people
I
of,
work with
you work with,
that's the difficult part is I can't cater my role to just one group.
Mhm.
I have to be flexible enough to work with all different kinds. The first presentation I ever gave at AMI-Quebec was at a women's senior group. It was like a lunch and learn for senior women. And I was so out of place, but it was great. It went really well. I had a good time. I still talk with some of those women that from the very first presentation that I went to, you know, and it's good because I get to see all the different stories, all these different interactions and experiences that people have. And it's great. I feel better for hearing it and I know from and learn from it. You know, we're not islands. We can't just like live on our own. The more people we talk to, the more we learn. So
And do you still give these presentations or
yeah,
you?
so for the past 2 years,
Okay.
all since the pandemic, all of our presentations have been virtual. So stuff like
Okay.
this. That being said, we're starting to talk about going back into in-person presentations. I don't think we'll see anything before the summer. We are of the mindset that we'd rather play it safe and not have to pull back. something that
Mhm.
we offering again, because then people get confused, they don't know what to expect, and this yo-yo that people are experiencing now, we want to not have that happening with our services. And we basically, our idea is that when things are back to the way they were before the pandemic, that's when we'll start offering in-person services. So that might be a while.
Yeah,
Like,
it might be.
we have no way of knowing what it's going to look like, because we do offer services to immunocompromised people. We do offer services to seniors. We do offer services to youth. We offer services to everyone.
We do.
And so to say, okay, well, we'll offer in-person services, but if you're immunocompromised, don't come. That's not a position we want to be in.
Yeah, totally get that. Yeah. And you also do other things, like you also have support groups, you have
Yeah.
workshops, and these are also virtual.
Everything is virtual right now, which is
Yeah.
kind of like we switched literally in 3 days all of our in-person services to virtual, and we did not skip a beat. We didn't cancel anything. We have not had to cancel a single workshop throughout this whole time. But yeah, we offer support groups, and those happen 3 Mondays a month on topics: anxiety, depression. We have a young carers group, which is really great. It's just started in the
Mhm.
past few months. We have a group called Kaleidoscope, which is for anyone with any mental health issue or diagnosis. It's for people living with mental illness, so it's anyone.
Yeah, you
And
really have a lot.
yeah, yeah,
It's great.
it's kind of like, it's hard because it's like, all right, cool, you want to talk about all the services we offer. How much time do you have?
And I have to say that what I love is that it is virtual,
Yeah,
because you are in Montreal, right? And
I
we're
am.
in the Outaouais. So we're able to use your services. So it's really
Yeah.
amazing. So that's why I'm saying, maybe after COVID, will you be continuing virtual as
Yeah,
well? Like hybrid,
we
or?
are going to be doing some sort of hybrid system, and not in the sense that there will be some people in person and some people virtual. I think what'll end up happening, and this is very much in
Yeah.
the like, we're not 100% sure, most likely we'll go back to our workshops in person, because those are more intimate, they're a little more personal, they're a little bit, it's people with lived experiences talking and helping each other out and like learning. And so that tends to be better suited to in-person services. And
Mhm.
then our support groups, I suspect, will stay virtual, with maybe some being offered in person. But our numbers of people attending our support groups are just as high as they were before the pandemic. So, there was a dip and now it's back up. And I think in some services where are higher, our numbers are than they were before. So I think a lot of people, they crave that in-person connection, but at the same time, a support group, going to a support group is just 1 hour now, or an hour and a half. It's 6:30 to 8. It's just an hour and a half of your day that you can like dedicate to mental health, which is like a lot of time. It's a lot of time to be sitting in. For some people, that's hard.
Mhm.
Rather than taking 30 or 45 minutes to get to it, and then 45 minutes to get home. So it turns from an hour and a half where you're like, okay, I can just sit down on my computer or my phone, wherever I'm at, and like drop into the support group and be there. And I don't have to take the metro. I don't have to get into a car. I don't have to get on the bus. I don't have to do any of these things. So there's a give and take on there. There's a balance.
And of course, for anyone in our area, being virtual is
Yeah.
really great, because we wouldn't be able to do the drive, right?
Yeah.
We love that we can just hop on and be part of the support group and
Yeah.
part of workshops, and yeah, everything that you do. So I know you do support groups. So those
Yep.
are weekly, right?
Yep. The support groups are, yeah, they're 3 Mondays a month.
Three
So
Mondays a month.
yeah,
Yeah.
we take one Monday a month off just because it's a lot.
It is, yeah, and of course it's open to everyone, right?
Yeah,
Like, so
yeah,
people
they're open.
here in Outaouais
Yeah.
can connect with you and sign up and register and whatnot. And you also do workshops as well. So
Yep.
and I was looking at your list of workshops, because you do a lot of workshops as well. And I know on March 1st you're doing one on borderline personality disorder.
Yep, those all the workshops they're open, and you have to register for the workshop
Mhm.
specifically. Support groups are just drop in. You don't need to do any
Oh,
registration.
it's
You
just
just come in, and
dropping.
yeah, you just click the
Okay.
link and you're there. It's a Google Meet link, and you can just come in. You can put whatever name you want. It's a way of just being there and open.
Okay, I didn't know
The
that.
workshops you have to register for, though.
Yeah.
And it's just so we have an idea of how many people are going to attend and how many people are going to come. And anybody who's doing or workshops right now knows, you'll have about 60%, if you're lucky, actually show up of people that are signing up. It's unfortunate. I have, everyone has been guilty of it, and we all try to not do it, but it happens. Something happens, something comes up. That's the disadvantage of the virtual workshop part, is that people sign up, they're like, oh, I'm interested in that, and then they forget, they don't come. So we do have a bit of flexibility in terms of like how full a workshop gets, but we do also limit it, because it can be a lot. It can be a lot of people in a workshop. If you have 25 people in a workshop, everyone's not going to get to ask a question. That's just the reality of it. So we do limit workshops.
Now, I realize that you don't do the one-on-one counseling, but I just wanted to bring that up quickly for anyone who's watching us, that you do offer one-on-one counseling services, and this is for caregivers, is my understanding.
Yes, it is only for caregivers, and that's very important. And that being said, a lot of people are caregivers and they don't realize it, but it's not, and it's not supposed to be a long-term counseling. It's supposed to be a short-term counseling, just to try to help you get back on track, and maybe even help you find other resources and just get you through whatever it is that you're going through in that moment. It's not long-term, so you're not going to see the same counselor for a year. That's not the kind of one-on-one counseling that it offers, but it's very helpful for people who are just like just need help. It's not necessarily, I almost said in crisis, but we're not a crisis center, so it's a bit different. But you can still be in a very difficult spot and need help getting through and working through whatever it is that you're going through.
It's like a starting point, right? It's like a short-term kind of one-on-one where you start off, and then you can pursue long-term help afterwards. You also offer hot topics, so you're on Facebook quite a bit. You do quite a few chats.
Yeah, I started doing these hot topics. It's funny because we started doing these hot topics right before the pandemic. And it was like we were meeting in our office. It was all in my office, and we had the camera set up, or Mark's office, and then there was one person on the computer, and we had a guest come into our office, and we would all talk. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, oh no, now what do we do? And thankfully we had already done this, so now I started taking that on, and I've just been doing them ever since. At the peak, I was doing 2 or 3 or 4 a month, which was a lot. And now I do one a month, because it's a little more it's a little more manageable now. And I think it was just a matter of we didn't want to lose anything when we went online. And so, and there were less presentations because nobody was doing anything. So I was focusing my energy on that. Now I'm starting to do more virtual presentations. I'm talking with youth in high schools through Google Meet, through Zoom. And, there are days where I have like 5 or 6 presentations I have 4 presentations in one day at some point, or I'll have like 6 or 2 or 1 a week, and it's all over the place, right? So I try to keep the like hot topics at once a month, just so we can keep the trend going, I guess you could say, and give people the opportunity to ask questions and interact with us that maybe wouldn't be able to interact with us in another way. And this month we are talking about losing relationships. In mental health, because of mental health, or through mental health. And so that's going to be a fun topic. I'm going to be talking with Sylvie. Fun as you get. It's hard because it's like, it's not a fun topic, but I also enjoy talking with people and like learning and hearing and seeing what they have to say. And Sylvie is going to be joining us, and she is one of our counselors at AMI. So that counseling that you were talking about earlier, she's actually one of our counselors, which is great because she's going to get to talk about losing relationships, and I'm gonna, we're just gonna chat. I really like talking with Sylvie a lot, so it's a good time.
So, and people can watch you on Facebook. They can also watch you on YouTube, and you're also on SoundCloud.
Yeah, so our YouTube and SoundCloud are kind of slower. SoundCloud we don't really use as much. It's there, it's older stuff, and I'm actually currently working on moving and having, so all of our YouTube stuff is going to be streamed at the same time. So when we go live on Facebook, it will also be live on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm working on that. It's one of those things that I'm like hesitant because I don't want to break it. It's like, if it works if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's kind of, and I'm like, all right. So I got
Yeah.
to add in this other complication thing here, but I think it'll be all right. But I'm gonna be working on moving all of our Facebook Live videos to YouTube,
Okay.
just so we have more
Yeah.
exposure. Because, I mean, especially if you talk about youth, there are no youth that are looking at Facebook.
No.
They're
And
not.
it's true. That's what we do as well. All of our Facebook lives, we also copy them over to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the nice thing is that if people do miss a live, they can go back and watch it,
Yeah.
right? So all
Yeah.
the lives that you've done,
Yeah.
everyone can go back and watch them
Yeah,
again.
they're always on our Facebook, which is great. But
Mhm.
a lot of people are starting to push away from Facebook, which I think is, I think it's healthier for a lot of people. So but it's still where our primary social media at this time for most people, I think.
Mhm.
Well, I guess it depends on the demographic, but yeah, for youth, they're using Instagram and TikTok. They are not using Facebook.
No.
And they watch YouTube videos. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. So
Yeah, YouTube's a big thing for youth, that's for sure. So everyone's going to be asking, how do we sign up? Where do we go? How do we find out about all of these amazing events? And I know you have your website.
Yeah. We have our website. It's AMI-Quebec.org. And if you go AMI-Quebec.org/calendar, that gives you everything that you need to know. That shows you, and we update it. It's every quarter we put out a new calendar. And so I think a new one soon-ish will be coming out soonish. I think March, is when one comes out. And that'll have March, April, May, and June in it. So.
And I'm sure as well, because you do have a Share and Care newsletter, right?
Yeah, the newsletter is,
that would be definitely the best way as well. I mean, obviously visiting the website, but when you sign up to the newsletter, you get it all right away in your inbox.
Yep, you get the inbox. Yeah, sign up. There's a page, and I think it's anyway, sign up for the newsletter. Sign up on ours. I don't know that one off the top of my head, but signing up for the newsletter is great. It gives you, we have a lot of really, really good articles, and I've actually gone back, into some of our archives to look for other articles that we put out, just to kind of like bring myself up to speed on a topic we're going to be talking about, because we've probably covered it. It's a really good
you really
newsletter.
do. You have some really amazing articles, and I'm actually I was going to put up the AMI-Quebec. You have your blog and whatnot as well.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking now because you have your Share and Care. But what I can do is, I just don't want to take the time, but I'll put the links afterwards in the comments so that everyone can, see the website and all of the other stuff. I'll even put a link to that infographic. But of course, you have others as well. I noticed you have some for English speakers, some for I think there was some for seniors and whatnot. So I'll make sure to add those in the comments.
There's so much stuff. Like I said, and I have to, my hat's off to Diana, because Diana's our website. She does everything on the website, and she knows that website forward and back. And I know it pretty well, but every time I'm like, oh, what about this? She's like, click. And I'm like, oh, of course we have it.
It's already up. It's
already there. We already have that thing. We don't need to do that. And so she does a really, really good job of just like keeping the website up to date. All the links are up. Everything is there and it works, which is just, it's a huge undertaking. And there's so many resources on our website. Oftentimes people ask me, where can I get information about that? I'm like, check the website, because it's there. It might, and it's not even hard to find. It's pretty easy. It's like it's intuitive on how you.
Yeah, I actually typed it into Google and I'm already on it. I'm just clicking through, and it's very easy to find. You've got like information on mental illness and treatments, programs and support, resources, information about AMI-Quebec. Actually, look, I can even put it here for everyone in the chat. Yeah, you've got tons of information. And your Share and Care newsletter is amazing. The articles are so well written, but the information you share is just a must. You must subscribe if anyone's out there watching.
And it's free. And if you still want a paper copy, I think we're still even doing that.
I think you are. Yeah, I think I remember
we're still sending out paper copies of the newsletter, which is just like, it's cool. If you want mail and you want some mail that you'll actually like, we still send it out.
And of course, I'm going to just put this out there to everyone. Make sure to check out the website. Make sure to register, because now's the time when we can take advantage of this here in the Outaouais, right? So definitely, yeah. So a huge thank you, Tony, for joining us this morning. This is really appreciative. It's just really, I love chatting with you about everything that AMI-Quebec does. It's such a great organization, and you guys have an amazing team as well. So thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
For sure. So I'll just say a quick bye to everyone watching us. Make sure to come by tonight on Facebook, because we've got at 7 p.m. our first year medical students will be doing some activities all throughout the week. And we'll be back next Monday at 9. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a lovely week.